how far are we away from commercial autonomous vehicles? And when they come in, what challenges do you see?
It's so amazing to drive an EV vehicle. So we did that with our last test trip, about 15,000 kilometers across 20 countries in Europe, only using public charging stations, charging dispensers.
Somebody just touches a screen out there, but the amount of triggers that screen actually generate, it's mind-blowing.
I have never had such an experience like that.
What are the skills somebody should possess who wants to enter this industry?
So good that you mentioned this buzzword Gen AI, because we are doing that really.
I asked him, how do you test a missile? And he told me by firing it. How else do you test a missile?
And then we can get, with a liquid hydrogen truck, we can reach more than 1,000 kilometers with one filling of the tank. So first of all, as always, it's always good to have a lot of good friends.
Namaste and welcome to yet another episode of Masters of the Craft. Over the course of previous episodes, we have dealt with multiple topics, including the business of QA, the human angle, diversity in our industry, technology, tools, automation, etc. It's been a very conscious effort from my end as the host of the show to get experts from diverse areas, starting with enterprise services to product QA. In the last episode, we had Seema, who was from the sports hardware QA space. Today, we have a guest who is very, very interesting. He is both an industry person as well as works in the academia, and he's from Germany. So good morning. Today we have a guest from the automotive space. It's my pleasure and privilege to welcome Dr. Christof M, Director and Head of Testing, Mercedes Benz Trucks. He is also a lecturer at KIT. So he represents the industry and the intelligentsia for us. He joins us from Württemberg, Germany. Christof, welcome to Masters of the Craft. Guten Morgen. How are you?
Good morning. So it's a pleasure to me to join your session. And so I'm looking forward to have a very nice conversation with you guys and good exchange.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for joining us. As I said, the guests that we call on the show, they are masters in their own field, and Christof is a master in his field. Now, automotive tech is an area where we see a lot of exciting changes, from faster adoption of EVs to autonomous vehicles to the buzzword today, SDV, software-defined vehicles. We'll come to all of that in a while. Personally, I too have been very busy on this space. I've been involved in some platform architecture consulting for a lot of automotive companies. So these are really interesting times for us. So Christof, how did you get into this space?
Yeah, first of all, I started with my studies. So I can give a short introduction of myself and how I found this way to automotive product validation. And so first of all, as a very young student, I had a vision to participate in shaping the world of tomorrow. And this was a decision when it comes to my decision that I want to start mechanical engineering. And mechanical engineering, this means for me that I not decided the standard mechanical engineering. I decided for theoretical mechanical engineering. And this is about a lot of mathematics and building mathematical models of the real world. And this is about validation. This is validation. So the real world is the customer today. And so the validation has to anticipate the real world much faster and much earlier than the customer experience the real world. And so starting that way as a very young student, more or less 40 years ago when I started my studies, it's a long time ago. So I put focus on the mechanics, material science, numerical methods in engineering, and multidisciplinary optimization. And this is a very important part of that. This is not one discipline you have to optimize. A product is always considering different aspects and different disciplines, and therefore you have to have this very deep in your mind, continuously optimization, continuously improving, and doing that not by trial and error, but with a very systematic approach, means using mathematics and using numerical optimization. This was the starting point when I started in mechanical engineering. Then, after finalizing and finishing my studies, so I decided for doing the next step, which was the PhD. And the PhD was dealing with aircraft structures and aeronautics structures. And we optimized fuselages and so on, and wings of our aircraft, and doing that with fiber-reinforced plastics, and always doing the same, building mechanical models, numerical models of the real world, and then optimizing that. And then finalizing the PhD, it was for me a very natural step to start in truck business. So why is truck business when coming from aeronautics? Because there are a lot of potential to optimize. This was exactly how I started in product engineering of Mercedes Benz Trucks. And this was in 1997, also a lot of years ago. So the first part was dealing with some quality issues, leading some task forces, and then so the decision was, this makes a lot of fun. And so I decided more or less 25 years ago to step in product validation. And this is where the story starts. 2001, so I started with product validation, first of all with durability. And this means, again, okay, if you have a problem with your structure, you have to measure, not only look and see what happens, but really simulating, doing calculations, measuring stuff, and so on. And this was how I started in product validation. Over the years, I built up a new team for durability validation of our Mercedes Benz Trucks. And within the next 4 years, then I developed this team to center of competence in our Daimler Trucks. And center of competence means we have the final call in durability. And so this job I did until 2004, and then continuously improved and created this area and growth. And we further developed this area to a department. And we had first international responsibility for within the center of competence. Means as well, we gave guidance to our colleagues in Asia, which means our brands in Asia are Fuso, Mitsubishi Fuso, nowadays Mercedes-Benz as well in Asia. In China as well, China is also a location where we develop today Mercedes Benz Trucks, and for sure as well in Brazil and the US. So we gave the guidance, how to develop the things, how we develop the methods. And within these years, we also developed, starting always from the same starting point, from mathematics, we built up state-of-the-art test tracks. And this was also something I have not had in my mind when starting with truck business, with studies. I had to build up also our tools ourselves. And tool is a test track. Test track is how to accelerate the real life, the real world of a customer operation in a very short period of time, so that you can get your results during the development phase already. And so we started that first test track building up in 2004. And now you can have a look in Google Maps and you can find 3 copies of this first idea over the world. The one is in Wörth in Germany. The other one is in Madras in the US, in Oregon. And the third one is then in Brazil, in Iracemápolis. It's about 200 kilometers from Sao Paulo. And so always the same idea was the guiding principle. Building mathematical models, optimize them, and bring them then to real products. And this is more or less the way how I started in product validation in between. So I had also a period between 2014 to 2018 where I was responsible as head of product development in Latin America. And coming back to Germany, I took over the global responsibility for Mercedes Benz Trucks product validation and all disciplines right now. We have the last call before releasing the trucks to the market. So this is how I came to product validation.
That's wonderful. See, it's a totally different point of view for us, because when we talk about validation, especially in the technology space, it's always the user point of view, and you're talking about a totally different approach where it's the mathematical models, it's the physical, before the physical model goes in, the mathematical model has to be created, validated, optimized before even the first bit is built. Is that right?
Yeah. So I started with that perspective because all the guys I normally talk to are always talking about tools. But you are absolutely right. You have to start with the customer and understand what is the customer need, and then transfer the spoken words this customer needs into mathematics, into requirements, into design targets, and so on. And so you have to have both. You have to have a very good understanding what the customer needs on the one side, and on the other side, you have the right tool set to do this in much faster, much shorter time than the customer will experience over the years of his usage of the product. And so it's both, no? It's not only one.
I understand. So once, very interestingly, long back, I was having a conversation with somebody who was working in validation in defense manufacturing space, and I asked him, how do you test a missile? And he told me, by firing it. How else do you test a missile? We fire it and see if it reaches a target. But when we talk about validation in the automotive state, it's not straightforward. You have given us a good background and understanding on how we start with the user requirements and then create mathematical models and optimize. But for me, many a times when I deal in the automotive space, when you start talking about a system is just not the tech parts of it. You have the mechanical parts, the electrical parts, the electronics, and then the software components also. So to put it very simply, how do we test a truck? By driving it, by crashing it? How do you do that?
Yeah, and this is a very interesting topic as well. And let's me step back one small step. So when I was a young engineer, so I dealt with mechanical structure and also developing and optimizing, let me say, an aircraft structure. And now, let me say 30 years after I did this job, my son started in that. Same product. The structure is still the same, but it's all about mechatronics and control systems now. And now we are at the point, you have to understand the full system now and not only focus on one part. You have to understand that mechatronic systems, so the software, can influence the mechanical behavior, the damage, and also, much more important in front of the customer, also the features and the product behavior on the product value in front of the customer. And now you're back again to the same question. So what the customer is expecting from your product, this is the starting point. You have to learn how the customer can use, how you can offer a product, the best product the customer can buy for money, and then going back, how to check these topics you are promising to the customer and what are the right tools. And sometimes it's, let me say, measurement equipment. So we have, if talking about mechatronic systems, this is about data collection. You have to control your control units. You have to write protocols about how the product behaves under certain conditions. You're generating hell of data, and this changed also over the years. Let me say also different qualifications you need. You're not needing only the mechanical specialist. You're needing now data scientists that can crash down the data and find failure patterns and identify what will happen to mechanical structure when software behaves like that. You have to think about what environmental condition when it comes to traffic conditions, yeah? Talking about ADAS systems, for instance, yeah, or autonomous driving, yeah, we are exactly here. Then you have to think about scenarios, how to test these scenarios. Can you do that on algorithm basis only in a software environment? Can you do that on hardware and the loop tools? Can you do that in a vehicle environment? But then how condense the events, because this is not about mileage, this is about events and environmental conditions. And therefore, you always have to start with the customer needs, with a promise you give to the customer about the product behavior, and then sit down, think about how to simulate that. And for instance, exactly this ADAS validation we are doing in a global network, more or less 24 hours around the world, together with our teams that we have in India. Especially in India, we have a lot of guys. And on the other side, so we have a team in Turkey which are doing the physical testing of the vehicle then with the mechatronic systems. We are processing that and bringing all the information together in Germany. We have then also vehicles running in the US, and all the guys together are one team. And from time to time, we meet in a workshop and we bring together the teams from India, from Germany, from Turkey, and the US at the same time, and then we have a workshop to fix some topics. And this changed completely. It's not about one discipline only, it's bringing all the disciplines together.
It's very interesting to know, because the person who drives the vehicle doesn't know the amount of effort that goes behind creating even a single component out there. The as you said, the multidisciplinary approach of the data, of the mechatronics, of the mechanical structures. It's very comprehensive, especially for an organization like Mercedes Benz, where quality is so paramount to everything that you do. It's absolutely mind blowing how many disciplines have to come together to even develop one component out there.
This is not only about technology, and therefore we have also to work very close with the marketing and sales guys to understand the customer needs. And sometimes we engineers tend to solutions which are perfectly from an engineering point of view, but we have to develop high-tech systems easy to use.
Absolutely.
He is not forced to know all the details we have to do upfront. He is not in charge of understanding all the details. He just have to use it in the right way in a very simply manner. This is at least our daily challenge. We are facing to.
Yeah, the level of abstraction that you have to go to. Somebody just touches a screen out there, but the amount of triggers that screen actually generates, it's mind blowing. It's amazing what goes behind it. Great. While we see a very clear shift in the Western world towards EVs, but in developing nations, IC vehicles seem to be dominant, and it's because of specific market demands, cost considerations. So it's no more a binary choice between EVs and ICE vehicles out there. We do see a lot of, especially from the Indian point of view, I can see that the government is now trying to promote hybrid more than an EV. It was an EV thought process a couple of years back, and then they saw, at least in passenger vehicles and commercial vehicles, the EV levels of adoption is very, very less. So they're trying to push more towards hybrid. And then there's a lot of talk about clean hydrogen-based vehicles, etc. So it's no more a binary choice. I want your opinion on, do you see a clear winner of any of these technologies in the long term, or do you see multiple technologies still existing out there?
Yes, here as well, it's not only a technical question. So we are starting, and this is the driver for us as Daimler Trucks.
We are driven by the global climate heatening. And so we want to contribute to that we are limiting the heating of the climate to the targets we have defined on the UN basis in the Paris conference in 2015. And this drives us. And the lever for that is that the contribution of CO2 emission globally is coming from heavy-duty long-haul operation by 7 to 10%. 7 to 10% of the CO2 emission is coming from the long-haul truck operation. And therefore, we have to strive to find a better solution than only using diesel and carbon-based fuels here. So this is a driver for us, and therefore there is a need. There is a need for change. There is a need for transformation. And therefore, we decided that we are pushing this transformation very hard. And one part is EV. electric vehicles, because the electric vehicles, when using green energy, and this is, let me say, an application, this is a key of that, we need green energy, then this is a really perfect solution. And I tell you, so I have an experience of, let me say, more or less all my professional career with diesel engines. And we developed that over the years a lot, but it's so amazing to drive an EV vehicle. So we did that with our last test trip, about 15,000 kilometers across 20 countries in Europe, only using public charging stations, charging dispensers. And this was a really great pleasure. And you can do that also very efficiently. So talking about efficiency, EV vehicles are one option. Talking about the need for change, I mentioned why we have to do that. So, but it's also clear that talking about EV vehicles, this is not only about the vehicle itself, not only about the technology, how to get such a vehicle run, it's also about infrastructure. It's a second parameter in that equation. And the infrastructure is the weak point still now. Yeah. So we have to use pass car charging stations, yeah, and this is not so nice because you have to decouple and to hook up again the trailer for charging, and this is not very convenient right now. There are only a few really truck-related charging stations in Europe actually existing, and I can imagine that in a lot of different parts of the world it's similar. But to push that, and we are starting in Europe, so Daimler Trucks is also pushing a new brand where we offer as well charging stations for our customers. So the focus is going to the ecosystem, not only to the vehicle alone, and just to get it done. With such a vehicle, we will launch this year, end of this year, our e-Actros 600 e-vehicle, e-truck, with a range of more than 500 kilometers, with one charge only, and 40 tons. And so this is a lot, and with one charge in between, you can even reach more operational time than you have as a driver. Your shift is limited to 9 normally, and sometimes to 10 hours a day. And so with such a vehicle, you can reach already and cover the whole operation of such a long hauler. But we know as well that for some operation, it makes sense from the mileage and the range, you have to have a different system. And the different system can also be a hydrogen vehicle. Our focus is here on the fuel cell engines or fuel cell technology, which is additionally in a truck, in addition to a battery, and we use the battery to do the modulation of the power request you have in such an operation. And then we can get, with a liquid hydrogen truck, we can reach 1,000 kilometers, more than 1,000 kilometers with one filling of the tank. And a second reason why we need both systems, so we have done some simulations how to get the infrastructure set up. And talking about the infrastructure as a second important parameter in the equation, then you can find that to some extent it makes sense to start with the e-vehicles on a battery basis with BEV vehicles. But then if you want to cover 100% of the operation, that's so much that you cannot do that. And then you need exactly the hydrogen as a second partner in the game. Because the hydrogen is more or less as well, or can be used and thought as well as an energy storage for when you can store energy, for instance, coming from windmills, from solar panels, solar power plants, when you cannot use it at the same time. So transforming this green energy then to hydrogen, have hydrogen then available as a storage and you can use it, is a perfect combination. And then you will see that the overall infrastructure you will get with less costs combining the electrical energy with hydrogen. And then so it's on the customer to decide, is he more on the side of long haul, extreme long haul, then he will decide for the hydrogen fuel cell solution, Or is he focusing on, let me say, intermediate distances like the 500 plus mileage as a daily operation? Then the preferred solution might be the BEV vehicle. So this is our principal direction and our core believer that we have to do it like that. And for sure, we have also, and we know that there might be other applications where we still need a hydrogen ICE engine to propel the vehicle as well. So we have also this technology, but for certain applications, but this is not our main path. Yeah, and for sure as well. So the transformation takes some time. And then we are clear that we will have the change, the transformation done until 2039. And the triad means Japan, it's Europe, is the NAFTA region with these kind of vehicles, and we still have some diesel applications in other markets as well. So we know that, but we have to start in the other markets much faster and with much more power to cover exactly the complete portfolio. And when talking several times about an equation where we have already two parameters, the parameters were the product, the perfect product first. Second is the infrastructure. And third, and this is the cost parity. And means, so no customer will buy a hydrogen-driven vehicle when it's double the cost than the other one, the conventional vehicle. And therefore, we have to work on the three pillars. And if the three pillars are completely on the same level as a diesel, then it's easy to convince a customer to buy the better vehicle. But we have to work on three parameters, and not only, as we did in the past, more or less, on the product only. The product is only one parameter in the equation.
But this is not a problem a company can solve. This is not a Mercedes Benz problem. This is not a Volvo problem alone. This is an industry and an ecosystem problem.
Exactly.
Do we have organizations working together to solve all these three pillars out there?
You're right. It's not, Mercedes Benz cannot do that alone. But therefore, and we always mention that we feel and we want to be the voice of the industry. And as a voice of the industry, it's not necessary to do everything alone, but you have to look for partners. Yeah. So we have some partnerships when it comes to the charging stations. So we have a company, Milans, we call this is the name of the company that we set up together with Straton and with Volvo. And Straton means for us as well, it's MAN, it's Scania in, it's Volvo in. So the biggest players in the market are participating in setting up and pushing as well, parallel to the governmental obligation to push that. Yeah, it's a society task, but we want to push that following also the model and the idea that Tesla did when introducing their models. No? So they introduced as well charging stations. So we are doing that on the commercial vehicle side as well with our partners. So the same thing when talking about fuel cell technology. And just imagine, so in the past it was easy. You developed one diesel engine and this was one-fits-all solution. Now you have the BEV vehicles, you have the fuel cell vehicles, you have then third the ICE vehicles also on hydrogen basis and diesel basis. And now, so what to do now? Therefore, you also have to partner for the fuel cell. We have a company set up which is cell-centric, partnering with Volvo again to develop the stack of the fuel cell only, and we share the stack, but not the application and the integration of the vehicle. And this is how we have to change as a voice of the industry as well. We have to change our environment. We have to take care of the ecosystem. Yeah. And then also talking a lot with the government, with the European community as well. And the same we are doing in the US when it comes to our partners at Freightliner, for instance. Yeah. So this is also about a lot of involvement also in communication to the society, to the politicians, to get this society task done. Yeah, and therefore this is also part of our communication work. So we have a lot of exchange as well with journalists and doing some publications, inviting them to the vehicles, inviting them to the environment, inviting them to the first liquid filling station that we have in our World Testing Center. We have a first filling station for liquid hydrogen set up in Wörth together with the company Linde. There are so many different things you have to take care of now. It's not only about a vehicle, not only about mechatronics, it's not only about validation. You have to explain the technology to the society and also to the government. And then for sure as well to the customers to get this task, the common task done. And therefore it's much more than only technology.
Yeah. Mostly people used to think, right, my product has to be the best. Now it's like you have to fit into the ecosystem. It's you can't have different standards. There has to be standardization across the industry, and industry has to come together. It's not only the industry, as you said, the society, the politicians, the governance framework, everything has to fit into this.
Absolutely. This is the change and the transformation as well.
Yeah, but I'll act as the devil's advocate here. I understand the COPC Paris commitments for climate change, etc. But there is a feeling that we are trying solutions out there which is not really solving the problem. And I'll tell you why I say this. For example, you hit the nail on its head when you said the EV has to be charged through clean energy and it has to be clean hydrogen. But what we see across many countries is that although we are moving towards EV vehicles, the energy that's powering it, it's not really clean energy. You see still fossil fuel based power plants generating the energy. So we are really not offsetting CO2 emissions out there. Plus the technology that we are using for the batteries, especially the lithium cell batteries, let's say, the mining process, the cobalt mining process, etc., they are not really environmentally friendly norms. So there has been the other side of the debate saying that these are just cosmetic solutions that we are doing. We are not really reducing the carbon emissions. We are probably taking the diesel out of the road, but we are putting diesel and fossil fuel to power these vehicles. So is there an equation? Is there some kind of a calculation that we have done to show that actually EV adoption has improved or reduced the carbon emissions out there?
Yeah, you're right. So if this would be the only path, the only way, then it's not solving the problem. But on the other side, so the question is always, if you need the three parameters, means infrastructure plus product, you always can say, okay, I start the product when the infrastructure is there. Or you start the product and then you start only the product when the infrastructure is there. It's the hen and egg principle here.
Chicken and egg story, yeah.
So we know Bertha Benz very well. She was the wife of Carl Benz. Maybe you know the story. And so Carl Benz was an engineer, and the Carl Benz studied exactly where I give the lecture. So I'm very proud of that. Yeah, at the KIT in Karlsruhe. And this guy was focused only on this technology, and he was trying to further improve his vehicle, the first vehicle. Bertha Benz, she said, hey, so we are out of money and we have to give a demonstration. She took the vehicle out of the workshop of Carl Benz and she drove a distance over 100 kilometers from Ladenburg to Pforzheim. And she was filling and buying the fuel in a pharmacy. And so this is the story. She has not waited until there are a lot of fuel stations in the country. She bought the fuel where she can buy it, where she can get it from, and then the infrastructure grew up. Okay, maybe this is more or less only a first idea, so how we have to think about this. For sure, the final solution cannot be that we use coal and crude oil to power the generators that produce electric energy. This is not the way. But what we are doing in parallel, so we also have a lot of conversations with the Arab states. So the Arab states that produce right now the oil, they are very keen on introducing and spending their money, investing their money in solar power plants. And they have a lot of area that you cannot use for anything else than solar panels. And so this is the first thing. So we are also talking to these guys, making contracts, linking people together. And I tell you, 4 weeks ago, so we had a very special guest when we handed over the first 5 series vehicles to the first customers that want to drive and want to test the fuel cell trucks and their operation. Among others was well known as well Amazon. Amazon is also a partner in that. Yeah. And so as another special guest was the CEO of Kawasaki Heavy Industries. And we showed him our fuel station for liquid hydrogen. And this guy told me then, when presenting that to him, so now I'm convinced I will build a new ship to make the transport. He's doing that already today from Australia to Japan on a permanent way. And he gave a promise, and he said, okay, for sure, you know the process in big companies, but he gave the promise, I will build up a new vessel that is providing the liquid hydrogen between Arab states to Europe, to Germany. And this is how it starts and how it changes. For sure, okay, so for some reason you have also today hydrogen, and you need hydrogen, and the production is not as it should be, yeah? And you use hydrogen for a lot of different products as well, not only fuel, yeah? But the future will be that we have to take the hydrogen from other sources than oil. Yeah.
You know, I'm also very glad to hear this because India was one of the founding nations of what's called as the International Solar Alliance, ISA, which started with Paris COP 15. And we had set a target of 100 gigawatts of solar generation by, I think, 2025, and we already achieved the target from about 10 gigawatts about a couple of years back. Now, you know, as you said, there are a lot of places in India where we are blessed with sunshine and a lot of unusable areas also. So we've hit the target of 100 gigawatts of solar generation, I think, last year. Plus, the government has also started something called the National Hydrogen Mission. So all the major fuel companies and all the large corporates in India are investing heavily into clean hydrogen plants, especially. So there's been a talk in this budget of letting smaller industries and corporations to set up small nuclear reactors, which will be able to create the clean hydrogen plants. So 25 gigawatt nuclear reactors. So the government has created the design, which is proven, and it is outsourcing that or open sourcing it for the industry to create its own smaller nuclear reactors, which can create this green hydrogen pipeline. So as you said, somebody has to start, when the product comes to market, let us buy the fuel for the time being from the pharmacy, but over a period of time, this will get, it'll get more widespread, and yes, we will meet the climate goals. I'm very happy that Mercedes is part of this whole ecosystem, and you're the voice of the industry. Okay, so let's move slightly away from this topic and come to a topic which has been a buzzword in this industry, and every conference I go to, every customer I meet in the automotive sector is talking about it, which is the SDV, the software defined vehicle. So for our viewers out here, what is an SDV and what's happening in this space?
So SDVs, a very interesting topic here. So nowadays we have also the embedded software structure, which makes a lot of problems as well when developing things like that. Because you have to synchronize all the suppliers, which are putting only part of that and of the software piece and that. And the future vision is starting with the features, with the function of a product, and a vehicle is a product like that. So what a vehicle like that should do? Should it be autonomous? Should it be electric driven? Should it do what assistance systems should it has, and so on? This is the starting point when thinking about such a vehicle. And then after that, you have to think how to realize the features. And then, so what features do you have? Just think about accident-free traffic. Yeah. So what the vehicle has to contribute to make sure that you have an accident-free traffic here, or autonomous traffic. It's more or less the same. Yeah, you should not have an incident with such a vehicle. And then you're developing the single systems. You're designing them from the software side, from the theoretical mathematical models, and then after that, you're putting that on hardware. Hardware means, first of all, control units and bigger computers like that. You have maybe 2, 3 of them in a vehicle then to fulfill our requirements. And then, so the software pieces are installed in the few computers. Today we have up to 50 control units in the vehicles, and which have to be synchronized, which come from different suppliers and so on. And then you're in a big mess here afterwards. So our vision is to have a common language as well, and this is another obligation. Therefore, we have another partnership set up again with Volvo. Yeah, so to say, okay, you need a certain amount, a certain volume of users that use the same language, so that the suppliers that contribute as well can focus on these standards, because you need some standards for that. And so I believe, first, you can be faster because you can develop core software pieces as common and define the specific features afterwards. That makes a Mercedes, that makes a Volvo or a Scania or things like that. And the supplier can use the core part of the software as a standard and make only the differences in specific features you offer or not. First thing. Second is, if you have such a software-driven vehicle, just imagine, you buy a truck for the first 2 years of operation, you have a certain customer you want to serve, and then you have another customer, you need different features, different performance. Then you can just update that. Maybe doing that over the air and things like that, as we are starting right now with that. But this will be much easier. You have already realized that some of in the past car business, that you have some services on demand. You can just book them if you need them. Yeah, and this is opening at least a new area again. Yeah.
So that's what a lot of our customers, my customers whom I consult with, are excited about. They're saying, other than the core revenue of selling a car, now it becomes a subscription-based product. Everything becomes a subscription for them. But what I see in a lot of platform engineering projects, especially around SDVs, as you clearly mentioned, it's not one chip anymore. It's not one ECU anymore. They bring in a lot of high performance computing components. Although I'm excited by it as a software guy, as a technology guy, but I also look at it from the validation point of view. So where you have multiple components, multiple surfaces, subscriptions, high performance computing, and we are seeing a lot of cloud integration also happening into the vehicles out there. Now, a lot of data is, as you said, it's over the air, and a lot of data is going onto the cloud. Does it make your validation thing more challenging? When you talk about SDVs and more software-driven vehicles.
Yeah, honestly speaking, you have to start in a different point of time. So you will still develop in a V model. So as we are doing that in a software environment, so you break down all your requirements and develop the single subsystems, single software modules, and then compose it again and validate that again. The thing is, if you integrate that, you have to have a very clear and transparent philosophy how to validate the single steps and how to make the handshake to the next level. Now, when it comes from single modules to systems, and integrate all the systems in an overall architecture. And so today, my business is I have several roles. Yeah, I'm not developing software. I'm not validating a single control unit. But so we have to take care that, let me say, that the protocols they are doing and the algorithms, for instance, when it comes to software in the loop, let's start with that. So we are offering some validation software in the loop, and our role as a validation provider to the guys that develop the software. Yeah, and then we are stepping out. They are doing then the hill validation again, but they have to do the test cases in accordance to the applications. We are providing the application models again. And then they hand over a piece of software validated on the hill. They release that to our entire vehicle testing, because we have to make sure then that the vehicle is safe on the road. You can hand it over to the customer and it will behave exactly as you expect that. And so this final part will still stay with us. But maybe we have to do a little bit more in the software and the loop side. We have to work harder on the hill side, because we have still some slip, yeah, where we say, okay, we haven't found that on the hill. Why we haven't found that? Why we find that only in the vehicle? So I guess we have to strengthen our activities much earlier on the hill side, developing scenarios, maybe using these adventure game environments, yeah, for instance, yeah, to generate environments and check them on the hill loop, and after that, put it only on the hill. And so to have a much more maturity at the very first steps of development, and not only and not so many issues you can find only in the vehicle afterwards, because this is too late, and this is asked us as well a very challenging task here.
Actually, it's interesting that you mentioned it. So we were working with a customer very, very recently, where we were using Gen AI tools to create these corner case scenarios for the sill. And actually, we found it to be very, very, efficient, and it was offering more coverage. And I do see, especially on the sill part, a lot of Gen AI going to be implemented to, create those corner case scenarios and those extreme scenarios.
So good that you mentioned this buzzword Gen AI. Yeah, we are doing that really, but I don't want you to use too many buzzwords only, but it's exactly what you said. It's exactly Gen AI. This is key here, because you cannot do anything, let me say, only sitting down and being hardworking. You have to do it much smarter. Mathematics is the basis again for that, is helping you to get this job done. Therefore, as well here, for years, I have a consultancy in a scientific institute, which is called Fraunhofer in Kaiserslautern. And Kaiserslautern is the location where we have also our German Center of Artificial Intelligence situated. So they are very linked to each other. It's exactly what you have to do here, and use all the tools which are available all over the world. And this is as well where we meet on a global basis always. Now, this is not about Germany is doing anything. So I have also hired again, maybe as well interesting for your audience, some guys from India, also working actually in Germany, but they are coming from India. So because I believe you have a very good focus on these things already. Yeah. So this makes me very proud to work with them. Yeah.
Wonderful. So you were mentioning when we're talking about SDVs, autonomous vehicle part, and I have two questions for you on autonomous vehicles. See, autonomous vehicles for the passenger car segment, it's a could have, or it's a frill that we could use. But for the commercial vehicle segment, it slowly will, over a period of time, it will become a must have or a should have. So how far are we away from autonomous commercial vehicles? And second, there is a lot of impact that autonomous vehicles are going to cause in terms of jobs, in terms of safety, and the ethical challenges of autonomous vehicles. So the two questions are, how far are we away from commercial autonomous vehicles? And when they come in, what challenges do you see?
So the first starting point of this discussion is really the shortness of drivers globally. And this is a global issue. So we have a shortness, at least in all the developed countries. So it's so hard to get a driver in a truck. So that on the one side, we are working hard to make it as comfortable as possible for them, because this is really a hard job. And on the other side, look for opportunities, some operations where we can replace a driver by a autonomous driver. And this autonomous topic, we are focusing especially in the US. So it's, let me say, just how we started with our technologies. And they have even more great fleets, big fleets with standard routes, and where you're going forth and back. And we call this operation hub to hub. And then you have a distance of 3,000, 5,000 kilometers. And so this is a standard operation. And the difference to the past car discussion we had a couple of years ago is this hub to hub is, from technical point of view, it's easier to get in, it's easier to solve, because the environmental situation is easier, is more defined, and not that complex as an operation in the inner city. But even this, we can manage with that. And so we have, let me say, as part of our Daimler Trucks company, we have the Torque company, and Torque is focusing especially on this autonomous driving. And we have an operational license, so in some of the US states, so we're already driving on public roads with these vehicles. And it's really amazing. So you need a lot of sensors for sure. And the vehicle, you asked, so how far we are? Yes, we are running on public roads. Yes, we know the sensors we need to get it done on a safe basis. And so we have already a business model how to operate this. So, for instance, Freightliner is selling the truck, the hardware, with all the equipment, all the sensors inside. And then Torque is providing then on a license-based autonomous driver this control center and all the services around that to operate the vehicles as an autonomous vehicle. So to get in a serial production, so we will have that in the next 1-2 years to have it on a series operation, and where you can buy the truck, where you can buy the autonomous driver here. So okay, it's not future, it's present already. No? And then this is one application where we say this is about big business, because then you have for these operations, this is really where you can earn money as a truck producer, an OEM, but as well as a customer, because so the operation, for instance, in the US, this is pushing that as well. So the salaries are about $100,000 per year for a truck driver, and there's a lot of money, yeah, and therefore you can pay a lot of licenses, which are less expensive than the salaries, no, on the other side. So this is how far we are, but there are even more applications, and it's important for me as well to mention this. It's not only one operation and not only one highway operation. So you have the in-plant operation, where you have a closed area where you can do the operation in industrial big plants, for instance, to do the intra-logistic and the plants. We have another very interesting operation since 8-9 years, together with a Brazilian partner, where he is using autonomous driven or assisted driven SAE2 level, these vehicles in a harvest operation. And so he reduced the costs a lot for his operation, use a truck with autonomous features inside. And so doing that, not running over the crops, not running in the sugarcane operation, leads to 50% more efficiency, means to the output of his field. Yeah. So, and these are several reasons, no? So why it makes sense to have autonomous vehicles operating. No? So we have the confined area operation, in-plant operation. We have this agricultural application, but for sure the biggest one is then the long-haul operation, and this is SA4 level. No? This is all different levels, why I'm talking about, at different speeds, no? And the challenges will grow as well with the speed you're running on the road. So such a truck long-haul operation is about 65 miles per hour, and then you have to be very fast with all your reactions, with all what you are doing to keep the truck safe on the road. Yeah. And the other operation, agriculture, is about 6 kilometers per hour. Yeah, and this is a wide range. Yeah, but nevertheless, it's all about doing a good business and pushing the limits of technology and also business models.
Having dealt with the automotive industry, I've seen this is one of the industries which has a very high level of compliance, standards, safety, certification norms. While we see many of these standards are global in nature, but when you go to certain countries and certain regions, they will have their own compliance standards, they'll have their own safety regulations, etc. So as a global test head, and when you're making a product, generally the product, at least the platform, will be a global platform. So when you're a global test head and you have to deal with so many standards, how do you centralize it? How do you coordinate all of this together and harmonize it? And have you seen any standards across countries actually contradicting each other that you're not able to handle?
So first of all, as always, it's always good to have a lot of good friends. Yeah. So, and one colleague of mine is responsible for homologation stuff, and his team is responsible to gather all the information from all the markets all over the world. And these guys in the local markets are checking the regional requirements, regulations, and all the changes that rise up here. And then we have on a frequent basis an update on the requirements. So you have to have people to take care of that. This is one question. You cannot do everything alone. And this is a big team, a global team. And this is the first thing. The second thing then is coming to exhaust emissions, for instance. So to some extent they are similar, but not the same. But to get the homologation done, let me say the base technology is then the same, but you have to have adjustments. Means on parameter basis, and often we can do that with the same hardware and show only an adjustment. And this is okay. So sometimes we have some markets, they want to be very progressive, that they are ultra-passing, let me say, physical limits, yeah, and let me say what is physical possible, yeah, and then you have to give an advice, and you have to negotiate and tell, okay, can we adjust that? What is your understanding? And so you have to be in an exchange with the people as well, and this is another thing. So contradicting we don't have, so it's maybe not the same, and it makes always additional effort, and you have to provide the evidence, yeah, within the regional markets as well, or at least with some guys that want to witness the test then, either in the market or they are coming over to us, yeah, and will follow our tests as well. And yeah, it's challenging, but it's doable. It would be better to have the same standards globally.
Okay. I'm going to ask you a follow-up question on this, and it's very important for me personally also. See, as somebody who started his journey or my journey in the validation space, I know standards exist, but does actual checking against standards exist? And the reason why I'm saying this, since you have already worked in the aerospace industry, aerospace is one of the most regulated industries and high levels of compliance, but we still had incidences like one of the prominent manufacturers having what we call as the MCAS, MCAS failures. So while certification standards, etc., exist, and even the automotive industry, we have seen data being manipulated in the emissions scandals that came out. So when you have so many standards and when you have to comply to these standards, where does the buck stop? Does it stop at your level, or does it stop somewhere else in terms of where you say, yes, we have met it, and you have to be very, very sure that it is, evidences can be created. So are evidences created, or is it real evidence? How do we ensure this, and where does the buck stop for these kind of certifications?
First is developing technology is always about going to the limits. And the limits sometimes are defined by legal requirements. And then it's important to go to the limits, but not ultrapass them. And this is very, very important. So if we have an indication that we are coming too close to the limits, so we at Daimler Trucks, we have a technology clearance council. So where I, as a guy who is doing the test, cannot release, let me say, these crucial things my own. Yeah? So if I'm not sure, if I'm not in the limits, I have to address this topic to our technical clearance council. And this is a committee where, for instance, our head of product validation is part in, and lawyers are part in, and they will judge that, and they will participate in that meeting. And then when we are discussing that and seeing, so if this is according to the law or not. If you are not according to the law, this is not the solution. Then you have to work harder. Then you have to find a different solution. And therefore, this is the next qualification you need as an engineer. You have to understand legal requirements and understand that being outside the legal requirements is not an option. This is definitely not an option. You will lose much more money than you can earn by ultrapassing the limits. Yeah. And this is exactly how the system works as well. So ultrapassing them is even worse and will not be the solution for the future. Yeah. And therefore it's better to ask twice, if you haven't got it, if you can accept this or not, than to do a failure here.
Okay, I'll ask you one last question. And if I am a graduate looking into enter the space of say, automotive validation, you already mentioned it's mathematics, physics, mechanical engineering. But if you could put across a few skills, and these skills need not be only technology skills, it could be, attitude and, behavioral skills. What are the skills somebody should possess who wants to enter this industry?
So the first thing is you have to be open-minded, very open-minded. You have to be open to all the requirements which are coming from society. We talked about society today. We talked about legal stuff. We talked about economics, and try to put all the inputs in one picture, like pieces of a puzzle. And this is something which is very important, not only for validation, but as well for validation. So when I talked about validation, it's not about you have to do a specific topic. It's about understanding what are the needs, and then the qualification is have the qualification to translate this in the tools you need. So when I started, it was much more related to physical testing in the meantime. So as you know, I'm also responsible for CAE. So we choose much more CAE, for instance, than physical testing as we did in the past, because the methods further developed. And this is the thing what we have to consider. In the past, we focused more on structure. Now we have to be open-minded to understand how to validate also mechatronic systems, software systems. And this is a qualification you need 100%. You have to be open-minded you want to learn all your lifetime, all your career time. You have to be in a permanent transition as well. And you have to have fun with that. And this is so important, to have fun with that. And from time to time, have the touch and feel to get the experience of that, what you're doing every day. And this makes you proud, and this makes you happy, and give you confidence that you can do the next step as well.
I understand you did a very long trip to actually validate one of your trucks very recently, isn't it?
Yeah, and this was also about fun. And I tell you, I have never had such an experience like that. That people which are not in the truck business approached us and want to talk to us and want to take pictures with the truck and our team. And so they were so proud to be part of this story where they can tell their families, their friends, okay, I was in front of such a future piece of technology. And so I talked to these guys, and this makes you proud. And let me say, even as a young student, we have had also a very mixed team with young guys inside that and experienced guys like me, and working together as a really one team. This makes fun, and this is a great motivation still today.
I'm sure that would have been, one of the finest moments for you when, you have this team and you're being recognized for it. Christof, it was a privilege to discuss so many topics of importance and interest. Your point of view on vehicles, autonomous vehicles, SDVs, and your passion towards, having lesser emissions and taking that as a goal, that is really eye-opening for me. I know you're extremely busy in your current role that you have, and thank you for taking your time out of your schedule for this episode of Masters of Craft. We're ever grateful for you. To you.
Jayapradeep, it was a really great pleasure for me to participate in this exchange with you. And so it's also about learning, always discovering things. Yeah. And so it was also a big learning and big pleasure for me today. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
So that's a wrap. This is yet another informative episode. I would like to know from all of you viewers, what kind of and what type of topics do you want to be discussed on Masters of the Craft? Put it in your comments below. If you have somebody specific in mind that you want us to do a podcast with, please do let us know, and do subscribe to this particular channel for more such information and more such discussions. Namaste and thank you.